What is up, everybody? Welcome into week 2 of the NFL college football yesterday, NFL today. It's the closing line. I'm the big man on campus. He's Donnie Wright. Today, we're taking a look, as we always do, all NFL games. We're breaking them down. We're giving you analysis, free picks. Had a good show last week. Let's hope we can build on it in week 2. Week 2, you're starting to see kind of the things play themselves out. We'll figure out who's for real today. We'll figure out who in week 1 was a bit of a fraud. We'll see who maybe in week 2 was a little bit undervalued. Donnie, right side, week 2, NFL, how you doing?
Yeah, overreaction week. Here we are finally to Sunday. Which teams are for real? Which teams are fake? Who's going to play? Who's going to drop out of the playoff race, Jeff? Already by week 2. Some interesting moving numbers here already on the board. Large card, 1 hour to go, Jeff. Let's get after it, man.
Yep. Like I said, we'll get into all the games, 1 o'clock games, 4 o'clock games, 8 o'clock game. We'll get into all of it. Will Capper will join us around 12:20. He'll give us a few picks that he likes this weekend, and we'll dive in and delve into week 2 here as we get going here. Welcome to everyone who's out there listening. Hope you enjoy the show. Do us a favor, hit the like button. Tell your friends if you think someone might like the show. Listen, I don't know that there's any more detailed betting show in the game than the one we have on right now. So sit back, settle in, and let's get it down. Let's get it going. Donnie, we'll start out. First game on the card, 261, 262. First of all, Donnie, sorry I didn't ask. How's your weekend?
It's going good. Hey, look, spent the day at a soccer game yesterday, Jeff. One of those games where some things even slip away, even at 6-year-old soccer games. 3-1 lead for my daughter's squad turned into a 3-3 tie. She had to get the tongue lashing after the game. We did a couple extra suicides after it. Promised it would never happen again, Jeff. But seems like that's all levels, right? College, high school, professional football. Teams let too many leads slip away and don't capitalize. But not here, not today on the closing line.
No ice cream last night after the game, I guess. Yeah, you got to teach them early, Donnie. You do not choke away leads. Show Reggie Miller, bro. I mean, the Reggie Miller choke thing. That's what the soccer team did yesterday. But let's break it down here. We'll start out. Indianapolis Colts, Washington Redskins. Redskins 6, total 48. Washington, big week 1, had a nice game against the Arizona Cardinals, winning 24-6. Donnie, I was impressed by the defense. I think this team took a nice step. I wonder, though, was that more Arizona being bad or was that the Redskins being good? You look at in quarter 2, 21 points. Rest of the game, they only scored 3 points. Is that really just, they felt like they had the game in control and they just kind of played conservative? Indianapolis did. You talk about choke. I mean, they were up against the Cincinnati Bengals, really couldn't step on the throat, ended up getting crushed in the fourth quarter, and they lose the game by 11 points, a game that they probably should have won at one point. 7 of 8, Donnie, between these two have gone over. They don't play a whole lot, though. What are your thoughts here? This is a weird game because I think a lot of people are thinking, all right, you got Washington at home here, a home opener against an Indianapolis team that, look, frankly, Donnie, isn't very good. I mean, defensively, they just still can't take that next step forward. Andrew Luck is a great quarterback, but you don't have a ton to work with. Your offensive line had some injuries. I know Anthony Costanzo was injured last week. I think their offense is solid. They just got to get some stops. Let me ask you, was Washington's defense that good or was Arizona that bad?
That's what we're going to find out today. I mean, we're certainly going to see what's what because a lot of these teams, you can take a look at last week. How much better are they actually than they showed or how much worse are they actually than they showed last week? Washington Redskins, case in point, Jeff, we're looking at one of those teams, out of the 30 in the NFL, you look at and say, how good was Washington? It was almost a perfect game through 3.5 quarters, and then they realized that Arizona couldn't score any points, so they took the air out of the football and didn't make any major decisions out there in the fourth quarter to throw interceptions and just moved it along, and Arizona ended up scoring. But I loved what I saw out of the Washington Redskins. The same thing we talked about all week. If those 5 offensive linemen are healthy, along with Jordan Reed, they're formidable because Alex Smith is a great regular season quarterback. He's not going to make mistakes. He's going to move the chains on first down. He's not going to look for that deep shot, so to speak, but he's going to keep your team in the best possible position to score points and keep it moving downfield. I'm interested to see how Andrew Luck comes back here, Jeff, after throwing 53 times, taking a couple shots versus the Cincinnati Bengals, who look like a really good Bengals team that they fought right up to the end and arguably probably should have won that game last week in Indianapolis. Now the Dome team heads outdoors Washington had a good week there in Arizona, coming back to play this football game. I think the line's about right, Jeff, sitting at 6. Some good even action in that, 50-50 betting splits there to see. But look, what Washington Redskins are we going to get? Just watching from last week, I loved what I saw out of the Washington Redskins. But then again, Jeff, is that back door going to be open late in the game? Alex Smith's not the type of guy that puts you away with multiple touchdown drives in the fourth quarter when he knows he just needs to run the clock and get first downs. So it's a good one at 6 there. If I had to wager on this game, probably would lean Redskins in this. It's a square play to me, but I would lead the Redskins. I liked what I saw last week from them, and they're at home.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. Gun in my head, I'd take the Redskins. It's not a game that I'm in love with, but I think Indy's a pretty bad defensive team, and I think we saw last week. Yeah, Alex Smith, very good. Defensively looks solid. Maybe this is finally the season where the Redskins get it going on defense. They've had a poor defense the last few years. You got guys like Josh Norman back there. Kerrigan, people like that. Let's hope that this defense could keep going. For the Eagles' hopes, I hope it doesn't. But in this one, I think the Redskins would probably be my play here at home. And guys, again, no need to ask us about certain games. We're going to go over every game here. So we'll get to all of them here. It's not college where we don't have enough time or anything like that. Donnie, let's keep it moving. Keep it moving. Carolina Panthers at Atlanta. Atlanta 5.5 total. 43.5. Carolina coming in off a win, but I don't think many were too impressed by it. They never really could put the Cowboys away. They were always at arm's length. Cowboys had a shot to go in and tie the game late. But Carolina did enough defensively, and they were solid on that side of the ball. Again, though, another question of how good is Carolina's defense? Is it more that the Dallas Cowboys just couldn't move the ball? I think at the end of the day, Donnie, the problem that Carolina continues and will continue to have in a game like this is I don't think their secondary is good enough. Okay. I mean, they're starting a 37-year-old in that secondary. They have a rookie in that secondary. I just don't know how good they are. I also am concerned, Donnie, about this offense. You look at their offensive line right now. Trey Turner out of this game, Darrell Williams out of this game. They've had all sorts of injuries up front. And that's a concern because you have a pretty good defensive line here for the Atlanta Falcons. Look, Donnie, what has Atlanta heard all week? They've had 10 days off. All they've heard is they can't score in the red zone. They're not good enough in the red zone. To me, if I'm Arthur Blank, I go down to that fucking offensive coordinator box and say, get this going and get this straight. Steve Sarkisian, I think, he's not on the block, but you got to fix this kind of stuff. I think we know between the 20s, they're a very good offense and they can move the ball. To me, it's at home. They played well against the Panthers over the last few years. What do you like here, Atlanta and Carolina, Donnie?
Yeah, from the very first opening of the line last week, I didn't even care who was in or out in this game. I just love the spot for the Atlanta Falcons to get this win. They go 0-2. They're going home for the holidays. They're not making the playoffs at 0-2, especially in a tough, it looks like, NFC South division that might be creeping up where all of a sudden the Bucs might be a formidable opponent or at least give you some, tough games throughout the season and down the stretch. We'll see if Jameis Winston gets back. But back to this game here, what's not to like about Atlanta? A couple extra days to get ready. Look, I think people are doubting the Atlanta Falcons a little bit too much. Who likes to go into the best team in the NFL coming off a Super Bowl championship and coming down to the 5-yard line with one play to win it? Jeff, let's look at this game if Atlanta had thrown the touchdown pass to Julio Jones to end the football game. What's this line look like today, and is the outcome a lot different? Because it was more Matt Ryan and Steve Sarkisian. Kurt Warner did a great breakdown of the last 3 to 4 plays that were down in the red zone where they had wide open targets in 3 of the 4 plays, but Matt Ryan was just making the bad read time and time again. It's nice to have red zone problems, Jeff, sometimes for NFL teams. At least you can get to the red zone against a really, really formidable Eagles football team on the road, Jeff. They got into the red zone 5 times. Now you're going to be at home. You had a couple extra days to prepare. You have some guys banged up on defense for Atlanta. I get that. But can Carolina be able to exploit that huge injury to Olsen, that security blanket down the field for Cam Newton? The offensive line is already dinged up. Now you're going to get into an atmosphere in a dome with 65 to 70,000 people screaming where you can't get the snap counts. Advantage to a fast defensive line. I think a lot of things add up here. Is Carolina a good football team? Sure they are. Atlanta's in a great spot here. Atlanta by a touchdown, maybe somewhere in that 27-20 range. I don't think it's going to be Atlanta by a runaway, but even if you looked at the past couple of games, they tend to cover by double digits when they do beat the Carolina Panthers. But I think Atlanta's in a good spot here. They can win this game by a touchdown.
Another major issue for Carolina, it's on the road and no Greg Olsen. I mean, Greg Olsen is a good tight end. He's one of the best in the league. Without him, that offense has struggled. And look, Donnie, I just think Atlanta's defense is better than people think. They're undersized, but they're quick, they're athletic. they could give that offensive line, who has had trouble, a lot of issues today. At some point, that Falcons team is going to start scoring in the red zone. And against this secondary, I think it could be today. Donnie, a lot of people in here. We welcome all of them in. Hope you enjoy the closing line. Feel free to put all your opinions on the chat. What's up? Whale Capper, he's in here. He'll join us in a little bit. Native Queen Olsen is Cam's Gronk. I got you. I agree. Yeah, it's a good point. You always got to have one of those players, and Greg is that guy for them. Let's get into the next one here, Donnie Rightside. And it is the Vikings and the Packers. Vikings 2.5, total 44.5. How about this line movement, Donnie? Aaron Rodgers is probable, and he's an underdog at home. How about that? Green Bay is not getting a lot of love here. This is a matchup. Look, two very good teams, two good defenses, two defenses that I think one is obviously very good in the Vikings, and one that I think is going to be very good in the Minnesota or in the Green Bay Packers. What do you like here, Donnie? Minnesota's won and covered 3 of the last 4. What do you think here about Minnesota at Green Bay?
Yeah, you know what's interesting, Jeff? When you saw the original line come out, like they weren't sure what to put it at, and I know even some people were in the super contest out there in the chat box looking at Green Bay getting 7 because they just didn't understand or see what was going to happen if Aaron Rodgers was going to play. But, Jeff, I've been on record all week. I wanted Aaron Rodgers to play in this football game because I wanted a cheaper line in this game heading through with Minnesota. I think Minnesota's overall the better team. Do you like to go in? Because, look, some people are just going to stay in their notes, right, Jeff, and say, well, when Aaron Rodgers plays at home for the Green Bay Packers, look at their record, and they're getting points. This has never happened before. Throw that stuff out the window. Look, it's the NFL. Can the Green Bay Packers win? Yes. But all of that is under all-world mobility. Aaron Rodgers completely healthy at home. Now he's going to be in one leg playing against a very good defense. So if anybody's giving you stats out there of Aaron Rodgers at home as a dog, or the Green Bay Packers just are 58 or 51-8 or whatever at home under Aaron Rodgers, throw that out the window because he's a hobbled guy on basically one leg out here. I like the Vikings in this game just because the Vikings are built to beat a healthy Aaron Rodgers team, let alone an injured Aaron Rodgers team. You finally upgraded the quarterback position. You have good running backs. You have solid play outside from your wide receivers. You have an athletic, mobile linebacking unit. You can get some pass rush out there, and also a great secondary. What's not to like about the Vikings today? If you can keep Aaron Rodgers in the pocket, Jeff, and we all know Aaron Rodgers does his work by manipulating the pocket and getting outside the numbers and extending the play. He's not going to be able to do that today. He didn't practice all week. So don't tell me like he's going to come out, he's going to look great. He says he doesn't like painkillers and the knee is a bum knee. I'm not backing a quarterback, Jeff, with a bad arm, and I'm not backing one with limited mobility when his game is built on mobility. I like the Vikings. I'm glad Rodgers is in there because I don't want to lay the 7.5 that you probably would have had to lay with the Vikings on the road. I like the Vikings here. It's Vikings or nobody in this game for me, Jeff.
I agree with you 100%. Donnie, you know what I like in Aaron Rodgers, too? He's a warrior. We all know that. He's one of the great quarterbacks of our time. But I liken him a lot to Omar Little from The Wire. Omar Little was a guy that really skirted death for a long time. He skirted on one leg. Remember, he jumped out of the building and his leg was all fucked up, but he's still going around. Eventually, I think he thought he was maybe impenetrable, and eventually we saw what happened to Omar Little. I think today the cast of villains for the Vikings are too much. That's a great defense. This isn't a defense that's going to be worried about Aaron Rodgers. They generally play him pretty well. I'm going to lean with you on this one as well. I like the Vikings. To me, I think Kennard, he jumped on Omar Little. I think the Vikings are Rodgers' kryptonite today. Donnie, you like that analogy? Do you consider that one a connection? Omar Little and Aaron Rodgers, they're both on one leg. They're both going to get got at some point, right?
Yeah, and when they do start, everybody yells down the street that Aaron Rodgers is starting, and everybody runs for the hills because they know what that means usually with the gunslinger coming out, Jeff. But not today, not in East Baltimore. This game will not be played in East Baltimore. It's in Green Bay. I think the Vikings are going to bring it.
West Baltimore, Donnie. Get it right. Remember East versus West? They hate that.
Yeah, I always get that confused, yes. Sorry.
Let's keep it going, Donnie. Uh-oh. This is an interesting one. I think we know where I'm going here. 267, 268. LA Chargers minus 7.5. I got the Buffalo Bills 41.5 on a total. Look, I talked about it on the roundtable. I'm talking about it here. Okay, there has been no positive movement if you like the Chargers. Everyone likes the Chargers. Everyone saw what the Bills did last week. Everyone saw the Chargers. People think this team's better than they are. Here's one problem. They're not. They're the same old team. We all know they are. They're going to do what they always do. They're going to play in a lot of close games. They're not going to be good on defense. That's just what they are, okay? Stop putting this team in the Super Bowl every year. They're not that good. And I know, big man, it's only 1 week. This is what they do always, okay? They don't win by double digits. It's not something they do. Look, if they go out and win by 30 today, a salute, thank you, good luck. But the problem is this line doesn't make any sense. The whole world's on the Chargers, yet the line is went in the Bills' favor. We saw what we saw with the Bills. They sucked. They quit. They didn't play in that game against Baltimore. The weather was shit. Now you're back at home. You got your fans in front of you. You got your new quarterback, a guy that I think they feel good about. You have some weapons. The weather's clear. Defensively, I think they're a lot better than they showed on Sunday. I think this is the overreaction, Donnie. The Chargers, at the end of the day, there's still no Joey Bosa. This is still a team that got torched last week on defense. Okay, they just did. Joe Barksdale, tackle, out as well. You got a tackle out here, Donnie. That's not good. Okay, this looks like a great spot for the Bills. I'm taking them here. I'm taking a shot with them. I'm not telling – look, if you like the Chargers, take them. This is one where you got to grab your balls. And this is where, to me, Donnie, a lot of bettors can't do this. They can't say, I'm going to put my money on a bad team. They can't do that. I'm going to try it, though, today. I'm going to go with the Bills. This line doesn't make any sense to me.
No, and you know what, Jeff? I used to do a show here. I did a couple of episodes, I should say, of trying to build the case and being a judge here. This is a game I want no part of, but let's try to build the case for the Buffalo Bills, right? First, what you like about this game, Jeff, the over-under is 41.5. So you know what somebody's probably saying over there going, look, if you're going to take the Bills, or if you are the Bills and you're Bills ownership, front office, coaching staff, and players, you look at the game last week and be like, look, there's one thing we can't do as the Bills, Jeff, right, is getting to a shootout with a football team because we're completely incapable of scoring that high. I like to knock the Cleveland Browns in their game today, which is food for another story here to get down to. But back to the Bills game here, Jeff. You have a young quarterback in there. You have Shady McCoy as your running back. You're already down. I think they only have 4 active wide receivers today, so it's not going to be an aerial show. Already looking at that line indicator. What do you do if you're the Buffalo Bills, Jeff? You almost come out and you run an offense in the first half just to get a feel for what Josh Allen's comfortable with. A lot of handoffs to Shady McCoy. Shorten the game by going on drives that aren't worried about so much about touchdown or scoring, Jeff, but maybe picking up a first down or two, burning 5 to 6 minutes off the clock, staying close, getting your young quarterback a little bit of feel-good throws, Jeff. The 5-yard out, the 7-yard slant, the 3rd and 3 where it's not 3rd and 13. He can make it manageable, maybe make a play with his feet or dump it off in the flat to Shady McCoy to pick up those first downs. That's how that's the only way, if you're the Buffalo Bills, you're going to be able to stay in this game. And you're right, Jeff. We see the Chargers out there, so talented on the outside, talented at running back, have a defense that can get after it, a little bit banged up at this point, but West Coast team coming east. You're not getting 7. So I don't want to hear anybody out there say, I got the Bills at, or I'm going to take them at 7, or the Chargers at 7. That's 7.5. That means the Chargers are coming West Coast to East Coast after blowing a game last week and are expected to win this game by double digits here for the Buffalo Bills. Build that case for the Bills, run the football and keep it close. I won't have any way, shape, or form any money in this game because I don't know what Josh Allen I'm getting out of this, but it should be pretty interesting.
Yeah, it's a fascinating game. And this is one of those NFL games that you look at and you kind of wonder. Because, look, on paper, I don't think anyone will disagree. The Bills were not good last week. And the Chargers, you would think, would bounce back. How can they lose 2 straight? But the truth of the matter is it's a tough spot. You're going across the country. You're playing at 1 o'clock. And I know, look, I don't put a huge amount of stock into that anymore because it's a different NFL. It's a different world. It's a lot easier to travel now. These players are much better. They've been through tons of different situations. So, look, for me, I don't let that bother me. But it's a tough spot. As far as the Chargers are concerned, I think you take a shot here with them getting 7.5. And like Donnie said, you're getting that 7 and hook. You're not getting 7. You're not getting 6.5. You get a full touchdown here. Like I said, could be a tough one. They could lose by 30, but to me, it's a spot you have to take. Donnie, Whale Capper, is he coming up?
He should be on momentarily. I guess his name will pop up in that little box here in just a few moments here, but he will be coming on. We'll take a couple games that he wants to go over and do, but yeah, he should be up in a few moments here.
Always looking forward to talking to Whale Capper. I've done some shows with him in the past. He's a great guy. Saw him out at IPC. It was nice to meet him. And there he is, live from the Golden State, California. Whale Capper, how you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. Good morning, fellas.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's early for Will Capper. It's only 9:19. That's something I could not get used to being on the West Coast. That ridiculous, absolutely foul time change. I cannot do that. How do you watch a game at 10 o'clock in the morning? I can't do it, Donnie.
It's the best, man.
Is it?
Yeah, oh yeah. Now that I'm used to it, when I go to the East Coast,
Yeah.
that time between when you get up and football starts, that 3 or 4 4 hours
Sure.
there, that's like eternity. It's torture. I can't deal with it. Like I want it to be on when I get up. I want to tune right in. Yeah, no, I will argue till I'm blue in the face that West Coast time is the best sports.
Here's where the West Coast sucks. Okay, look, when you see Christmas cards, Will Capper, do you see it ever look like where you're at right now? It's snowing. It's cold. You see the sleigh bells. I mean, come on, Will Capper. The West Coast stinks. All right, the time change stinks. Donnie, you have to agree. It snows during Christmas. It's not 80 degrees. Come on.
Yeah, it's early. It's early. It's interesting because I would like it for baseball handicapping because you get those games starting like 4 o'clock. But for football capping on the weekends, man, my goodness, waking up early, 9 a.m. kickoffs. You got to get up at like 6 a.m. just to see some moves. At least on the East Coast, we're a little bit slower in the morning, so we can sort of adjust, have some monsters or coffee, and relax.
Yeah. It's a fair point. In fact, I do almost all my capping earlier in the week, knowing that like when I get up on Sunday morning, I may not be on my right mind to make good decisions. So for me,
good idea. And how about this? Will Capper going for his first game he wants to talk about. He's going to Tampa Bay, Eagles, Tampa. Donnie, just before the show started, I talked to a friend of mine down at the game right now. He said he thinks it's an Eagles home game. There's not many people there.
A lot of them went down.
They're running. I know for anyone that's curious, throughout the offseason, throughout the beginning of the season, there's a new tour in town. Basically, it's an Eagles tour, and they're putting all these people on planes, taking them down, giving them prices on these games. So these games are going to be there's going to be a lot of Eagles fans at these games, as always. There's a lot of emphasis on away games now. And the Eagles fans are going to show up for this game. I heard it's very warm down there. It's humid. It's typical Florida weather. Eagles 3, 46.5. Number hasn't moved. It's stuck at 3 all week. According to certain people, Carson Wentz may be back next week, but he's not going to be in there this week. Will Capper, I'm going to let you have full coverage on this one to start it off. What do you like here? I mean, Eagles obviously coming in. Nick Foles. The offense is good enough to get the win. Eagles are going to lose at some point, okay? It hasn't been a long time. It's been a long time since they've lost. But the truth of the matter is the Saints defense gave up a lot of points last week. They weren't good, or the Bucs defense gave a lot of points last week. They weren't good. Do you look at Fitzpatrick and say, that was just one of those games? That was his moment in the sun. He finally got this, he finally got a hot girl after so many ugly ones. Do you look at that one and say, that was Fitzpatrick? What do you think here? Now it's a real team for the Bucs.
Well, so two of the reasons that I picked the games I picked is I wanted to check in with my friends from the Keystone State, get a feel for what the prevailing winds are saying about Philly, because they fit a criteria here that's one of my favorite early season angles. They're coming off Thursday Night Football. They got 10 days rest. You give a coaching staff that's as talented as Doug Peterson's extra time to prepare. And you get a defense that has absolutely glaring holes, especially in the secondary. This looks like a total mismatch to me. And I was ready to, queued up, ready to grab that early number on Philly, expecting it was going to take some money. It was going to get, bet out to, 4, maybe, 3, at least 3.5, maybe 4. But actually things are going the other way, and you can get like relatively favorable juice at -3 right now for some reason. I don't really understand it personally. I think this is like a 7-8 point type of difference, just from sort of a power number standpoint. And then I don't think, like you mentioned, it's going to be Philly South down there. I don't know that there's a huge home field advantage outside of the fact that it's going to be hot and humid, and sometimes that favors the home teams in Florida we've seen early in the season. But I didn't really hesitate backing Philadelphia here. I'm just surprised that the line hasn't gotten bet out. What do you guys make of that?
Yeah, I think, Donnie, I wanted to ask you, I mean, obviously this is an Eagles defense that I think we know is very good. And I thought last week, I thought at times they were absolutely stifling. I mean, it was, and look, I'm a big Eagle fan. You and I are both big Eagle fans. I try to be a non-homer on this team, but it's been hard to, because they've won a lot of games. Defensively look good. You look at the cornerback, Hargraves, he's out for the Bucs. Brent Grimes is out. Donnie, how many times did you and I last year worry about Brent Grimes if he's playing or not to hold that defense together. Jason Pierre-Paul's got a brace on his leg. He's iffy to play. I agree with Will Capper here. I think this number is just a bit too low. It looks like a trap game, but to me, this has 31-20 Eagles written all over it.
I like that call.
Yeah, no, I mean, if I'm looking from a an objective setting, because do I want the Eagles to win and blow them out? Hell yeah, I do. I hope the game is 47-0 Eagles. But again, styles make fights in here. I talked about it all week long. If Carson Wentz was healthy and played in this game, they bomb on this Tampa Bay team. I don't even think they would run the ball more than 15 times and just have an absolute aerial assault down the field, hitting everybody, running streak patterns left and right. But that's not Nick Foles' game. Nick Foles outside, again, you have to give him credit for the Minnesota Vikings game, which was at home, and also the Super Bowl that he played. I get that. But outside of those two football games, he's been a very pedestrian quarterback. And in order to strike it rich against the Tampa Bay secondary, you have to be able to annihilate it. You're going to have Nelson Aguilar, which they, whoever they have back there can roll coverage. You're going to ask Mike Wallace to beat him. You're going to ask, Carter, who's played like 10 snaps in the NFL total, who played 65 snaps last week against the Atlanta Falcons to beat somebody deep. It's going to be more of a ground attack. You're going to see J.J. get 20 to 25 carries, which is going to lend this football game to be a lot closer than what it should be. If you take a look at the way New Orleans attacked that secondary for Tampa Bay, the Eagles can't do that. It's the same way we're going to talk about in a couple of minutes the Cleveland Browns, how they can't attack the secondary like the Tampa Bucks did over in New Orleans. So I think the Eagles win the football game. Yes, they're a better team. They're off extended rest. They're getting Nigel Bradham back. Their defense is much, much better than Tampa Bay's. But sometimes your weakness, you have to have the ability to exploit it. I don't know if the Eagles can exploit that secondary as well as they need to blow this team off the football.
I mean, this is that game for the Eagles with Nick Foles that you expect them to really show out. I mean, this is a bad defense. I mean, no Vita Vea. I mean, this is a defense that's really lacking a lot of talent, and you should be able to go out there in front of a pro crowd and really show out on offense. But Donnie's right. I mean, Alshon Jeffrey's not walking through the door today. I mean, you don't have a lot. Darren Sproles isn't playing today. He was a nice avenue for Foles last week. These young kids playing, you're back to almost that level a few years ago where you had no one to throw the ball to. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. Wentz will come back, Jeffrey will come back, and they'll be fine. But listen, I don't think they lose this game. I think I agree more with Will Capper than Donnie, but I get Donnie's issue here. It is kind of one of those scary games, but you got to be able to move the ball against this defense. There's really no excuse.
Okay, count me as someone who does not believe in Fitzmagic. I feel like we've seen this kind of one and done sort of deal with him before, where he absolutely balls out in a random game, and then the next week we remember like, oh yeah, this is why this guy is a career journeyman, career backup. And when I look at the mismatch that the Philly D line has against an offensive line that I don't think is particularly impressive in pass protection, they did well against the New Orleans Saints, who couldn't really generate much pressure last week. But if that Philly D line can control sort of or just disrupt, Fitzmagic, remind him that he is, a backup quarterback. This feels like the kind of game where they could, what's a good analog might be like Philly versus the Cardinals last year, like where Cardinals really, the Philly defense just dominated the game. They smothered them from the first whistle, and it really was never particularly competitive. It was just however many points Philly decided they wanted to score. Any chance we see something like that?
I'm sure hoping we do. I think we're more inclined to see it. It seems like this team, when you expect them to do stuff, at least lately, which it's not something we usually see in this town, it seems like lately when you think they're going to do something, they go out and generally do it. I mean, Denver last year was a perfect example. You just saw that team coming in and you expected them, you expect them to win, you expect them to do well, but they came out and just pounded them. I have a feeling they do that. I think they're just much better than the Tampa Bay Bucks. I think this is the sheer case of overreacting to what a team did last week. Donnie, what about you?
Yeah, no, I mean, look, you're going to go on the road. And again, it's a heavy public side. Looking at 72, 73% of the public on the Philadelphia Eagles. The line stayed at 3 all week, hasn't moved off of that number. Over-under seems to be creeping up a bit. I guess in that heat, they expect a little bit more scoring. But if I'm the Philadelphia Eagles, I'm using the same exact game plan that I used against Atlanta Falcons. Let's just keep it close. Let's lean on our defense. We'll make a play or two more, which doesn't lend you to get that nice comfortability that you need to have as a road team. I want it to happen. I want to blow out. But I have it hard-pressed to see, the Eagles with a comfortable 14 or 17-point lead in the fourth quarter. I see this game a lot closer than a lot of people do, which you can lean on being that underdog play player. And get back to the Fitzpatrick. I mean, Fitzpatrick over here, has he ever had any weapons like this at any time in his career? I mean, you used to see him like a hapless Jets team or just out there slinging it around. He has absolute dynamite out there on the outside, so he's going to be able to move the football.
So you guys think Tampa Bay's a live dog at all? Like, is there a world we live in a football world in 2018 where Ryan Fitzpatrick can go beat the Saints in New Orleans and then turn around the next week and beat an extra rested Philly team? It's a tough call.
I don't see him beating the Eagles. I mean, you said it best. I mean, he is a backup at the end of the day. There's a reason he's a backup. But look, last week maybe he showed he's a starter, and he's just been kind of. He's probably one of the better backups in the league, but I don't see it. The Eagles just seem to have this magic right now. And again, I mean, they're going to have that fan contingent in front of them. They're still a very good defense. I think you're more or less inclined to see them struggle against that defense as opposed to move the ball. But Donnie and I are kind of on other sides here. Donnie wants the Eagles to win. I think he's just
damn right.
Yeah. We'll both watch this game as fans. We're both ready for 1 o'clock. How
about the other? Yeah, how about the other side of the state? You guys got a feel for Pittsburgh in this game?
Yeah,
and what do you make of this line roller coaster ride we've been on with this line?
Yeah,
you were expecting 7. They open.
Go ahead.
I think we lost him a little bit on some audio there.
We lost him. His camera was rocking back and forth. We'll wait him to just join right back. It's funny. He's going over both Pennsylvania games. One
good.
side.
Let's get to it. Yeah, set it up for us. Let's go. By the time he gets back on here, we'll have it ready to go for him.
There he is. We got the Pittsburgh Steelers at 4, total 52.5. About 2 minutes ago, it was 3.5. Back up to 4. Chiefs obviously looked very good in week 1. I mean, we know what they did. Mahomes was terrific. I feel like I was dead wrong on the Chiefs. They were very good against the Chargers. I don't know if they'll get a ton of pushback today. Look, Donnie, you and I talked about this game last night. We both mentioned, at least I mentioned, the over looks like a strong play here, but it's high. We missed the boat on the number.
Dropping too.
I'm not in love with Big Ben Roethlisberger as far as especially the physical state he's in. Still no Le'Veon Bell. James Conner's been a fine replacement, and he'll be okay here. But I just see bombs away in this game. See a lot of points. Weather's clear. To me, it's a tough side. I mean, I think the Chiefs are the play, but I think a lot of people think the Chiefs are the play. They're one of the highest bet games today. Will Capper, you picked 2 PA games. We did Philadelphia. Does Pittsburgh have, in memory of the great Mac Miller, that Mac Miller magic today? What do you think?
I think they do. I backed Pittsburgh. I got it in at -4, and I thought that was the best we were ever going to see because it went back up to 6 then. But then today it's been back down to 4. So there's obviously pretty influential money on both sides of this one, which is fascinating. But my angle going into this really is just that Kansas City went east to west last week to play in LA. Granted, it felt like a home game, but for all the rigors of travel still weighed on them. They fly back to Kansas City this week. They're flying east to Pittsburgh. 2 weeks of travel in a row early in the season is usually very, very tough for a team to deal with physically. A lot of times you see teams kind of lose their legs in the second half of games when they're on back-to-back road trips early in the season. So I'm going to be watching this one pretty closely. I think I like Pittsburgh, at -4 for the full game. But I'm going to be especially interested to see if it's close or if Kansas City has like a small lead at halftime. I'll probably take an even bigger position on Pittsburgh in the second half, looking for the Chiefs' legs to go on them.
This game just looks 34-27, 30-24, something like that. Donnie, I mean, Will likes the Steelers here. Obviously, you're getting a good travel spot here against the Chiefs. I guess one of those teams last week that kind of overperformed. I mean, are the Chiefs as good as they looked? I mean, they still have no Eric Berry. Another point of contention as well. Joe Hayden out as well. So a couple cornerbacks for each team out. I think that only helps the total. I mean, am I off my rocker, Donnie? I mean, we missed the best of the number here, but this just has the looks of a 31-27 type of game.
No, it does, and it sets up well, but you're looking still. Mahomes still a young quarterback. Maybe he skated last week because it wasn't really a true road game, as we like to say, because there's probably more Chiefs fans in the house last week against the Chargers. Not the case today in Pittsburgh, where it's a tough place to go in there and beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. And again, we're getting back to the point, Jeff, where it's not like, hey, we really need like the Kansas City Chiefs to hang around in this one. Hey, they lost by 7, but that's great. They covered the 8.5. It's down to 4, and you said it even popped down to 3.5 here. You're actually expecting the Kansas City Chiefs to be in this game late, 27-27, 24-24, 24-17 with the football and a chance to win this game, because they're probably going to have to win it outright, as opposed to say, hey, let's get lucky on a last-second field goal where the Steelers end up covering here. So that line getting down from 5.5 to 5 to 4.5 to 4 to 3.5 shows you have to win. And Jeff, what do we always joke about here in the NFL and college football? Those public dogs that draw all that attention and money usually go to die. The only caveat I have here, Big Ben a little bit banged up with that elbow out there, tending to make a little bit more of those risky throws. But are those risky throws going to get picked off? Because, there's no Marcus Peters back there. There's no Eric Berry. Maybe he gets away with a big play as opposed to an interception the other way.
Interesting point. Well, what do you think about the total?
I like the over with you. I would almost look at a Pittsburgh team total over, though, just in case Mahomes shows some cracks today.
Yeah, but here's my concern on that. What if Big Ben gets knocked out because he is injured? I mean, and that's what's really hurting you on a total here. That's what makes me concerned. What if Big Ben goes out? I mean, who are you dealing with? Mason Rudolph at that point? Who's the other guy? They have their other backup, Josh Dobbs. I mean,
yeah. I don't think you want the full game over anyway if you think there's a likelihood that Ben.
Yeah, I mean, and that's get me off it.
It looks like DeCastro's not going. The guards, he's pretty damn good for the Steelers, and yeah, I could see a case. But Kansas City doesn't really have the horses to kind of get after Ben, and so I would expect him to have a relatively efficient day production wise, and if for whatever reason, I have very low opinion of the Steelers defense. I don't think they're very good, but the Kansas City defense is worse. And I would maybe look at with Pittsburgh being home, this being they've kind of had Kansas City's number over the last couple in the Andy Reid years, I guess. At least in my head, I can definitely remember Kansas City. They beat them convincingly in Arrowhead last year when Kansas City was undefeated to that point. So they kind of they have what it takes to beat an Andy Reid team. I think possible Kansas City looked better than they actually are last week, just because you had Andy Reid with extra time to prepare, and he cooked up a very special game plan that just dissected the Chargers. So I think Kansas City comes back to earth as a team. I think Pittsburgh shows out offensively, and I grabbed the -4 here, looking for a pretty comfortable win with them pulling away in the second half.
You want to hear a terrible take? Well, I actually said Kansas City was one of the worst teams coming into the league this year. I thought they would be horrendous. I thought he was a terrible quarterback for that system. I didn't think it made any sense, and it still may be, but I just don't see a ton of talent on this team really outside of one or two offensive players. Defensively, they're not good, but that might be a bad take.
Well, they have some pretty spectacular speed in their skill position players. Tyreek Hill was obviously the player of the game. I thought even more so than Mahomes. Him setting up, getting them that lead with the punt return for a touchdown and then breaking away for that huge score. It's when you have someone who's that dynamic a playmaker, that can elevate the performance of everybody on your team. We saw it back in the day with guys like, and I'm thinking of Rams and Redskins teams where they had just electric, punt return speed guys on their team. Totally changed the complexion of what you can do on offense. But all that said, I think the Steelers. The Chiefs have an especially significant hole right where the Steelers like to attack you with the likes of Schuster and Antonio Brown. So I think those guys are going to go nuclear today. And I guess I would look at a Pittsburgh team total over instead of the full game over myself.
Great stuff, Whale. Well, Capper, liking the Steelers and Eagles going full Keystone State today.
Yes, I like it.
It's that Keystone Karma, guys. Let's get that Keystone Karma.
Damn right. I'll take that.
He's coming into Pennsylvania with 2 guns strapped. I like it. Good stuff, Well Capper. You look good as always. Great stuff. Someone actually asked us if we're doing an interview today with Martin Truex. You look a lot like Martin Truex, the NASCAR driver today. Well Capper, great stuff. You're hanging out in the Garden of Eden, I believe. Good stuff. Yeah. We'll see you soon. Thanks a lot.
Take care, guys. Thanks for having me.
See ya. Jeff Whalecapper right there with another nice interlude for us. Doesn't he look like one of those guys that might be in the feds or might be in like the federal witness protection there? He's got the dark hat on, the dark glasses in an area where you can't quite make out where he's at. I think he's playing at Prairie Bend, also with a beard. I think he plays it well.
Yeah, he's been relocated to Tucson, Arizona or something.
Catch up in noodles, man. That's all you can get out there.
Yeah, noodles and egg noodles and ketchup. I'm a regular schnurr. Let's move it back to football here.
That's
great stuff. Actually, what an interesting game we're coming into now. 269-270, Houston at Tennessee. Donnie, I'm reading a lot of stuff. Mariota warming up right now, wearing a glove, has a pinched nerve in his elbow. Not exactly, something you want to deal with when you're playing football. Signs are maybe pointing towards Blaine Gabbert. Took a lot of snaps during pregame warmups. Mariota's out there. Donnie, this, to me, we've seen before. We've seen it in college. We've seen it in the NFL. You might go out there and maybe try to act like you're going to play when you might not be. It's got to be difficult to play with a pinched nerve in your elbow in the NFL against a pretty good defense. Numbers dropped to 3, though. People not buying in. Maybe people think it's a facade. Maybe Mariota's fine. Houston looks real good in this game. They went up to 4 at one point. Look, I love Houston. People know that. I'm a big fan of Houston. I thought last week they were decent at times, but for the most part, they were kind of underwhelming. Deshaun Watson wasn't good. I feel like today he has a much better game, shows out a little bit. This is a tough game, Donnie. Where do you think Mariota is in this game?
Yeah, I mean, is everybody banged up in this game? You get the whole front line for the Tennessee Titans out of the football game. Is Deshaun Watson going to get his knee in order here? Jadeveon Clowney goes out and warms up and says, "My side hurts, so I'm just going to bounce on this football game." Then you have both wide receivers, DeAndre Hopkins and Will Fuller, were questionable, but they're going to give it a go in this football game. Then you have 2 quarterbacks, Blaine Gabbert, and then of course you just explained Marcus Mariota, who is, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm a quarterback. I throw the football. Boy, I don't really feel my arm some plays, and I can't really grip the football great. What happens when you have to thread that needle 35 yards downfield and you can't feel your hand in order to throw the football? Something tells me this doesn't set up very well for a perfectly clean type of game. But if you saw some of the reports, you believe, sharps on Houston. Sometimes I like to take this type of an approach, Jeff. My quarterback is all beat up, banged up, and I might have to lean on Blaine Gabbert in this football game. That usually leads me to go the other way. I think the Houston Texans have enough offensive weaponry to make it around and win this football game on the road. You saw the line. They weren't sure what to put it at, but now you're showing most outlets out there, Jeff. What are we looking at? 3 primarily across the board. We're going to take a look at this Tennessee Titans game. For some reason, I can't actually find it here to say, oh, there we go. Yep, now 2.5, 3.5 minus 115 intertops. To me, Jeff, in this game, honestly, it's Houston or nobody here, because just like betting another sport, Jeff, you want to bet the pitcher that says, boy, man, my shoulder don't feel so good, but I'm going to give it a go out here. I'm not walking into that. Give me Houston here.
Yeah, I agree with you totally. I agree with you absolutely totally. Listen, I don't want any part of Blaine Gabbert. No Lewan, no Conklin. This is going to be tough if he plays today. You got to like that.
Even Jeff, like on your simplest form, right? Quarterback is banged up, so you really want to protect him. How do you protect him? Sit both of your tackles who are hurt. And oh, by the way, the 3rd tackle in rotation Jeff usually plays, he went to the hospital over the weekend, is out for this football game as well. So you're starting on this team with your 4th best tackle. So you have 4 and 5 at tackle. I can't back you, man. I'm sorry. You're going to get slaughtered in the pocket.
Yeah, no, you're 100% right. You just can't get past some of that stuff. The NFL, the one spot where it really hurts when you lose a player is the offensive line. I mean, a lot of the time, Donnie, remember Winston Justice many years ago?
Yeah, the same thing. You could go in New York now, Jeff. You want to talk about Eric Flowers. When you say, hey, Eric Flowers is starting, you're going, oh, my God. You know what I mean? It's just the way. Yeah, good point.
Brutal stuff. You just can't replace those kind of guys on the line. And it's not one, it's 2, Donnie. So, for me, I got to go I got to go with Houston. I think you're getting a nice line here. The only unrest here today will be from Bill O'Brien. Hopefully he doesn't try to get in the way too much. We keep it moving, Donnie.
Get back that quick Bill O'Brien point, Jeff. Look, if it's 4th and 5 and you're in field goal range, Bill, kick the freaking field goal this week and we can move on. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, I totally agree. Vikings down to 1, Donnie. How about that? Moving. Dolphins, Jets. 3 for the Jets, total 43. Should be a great atmosphere in New York today after the win. Jets fans a little bit overreacting, I think. Dolphins coming in off a long game, 7-hour game, but they found a way to get the job done. Look, they're 7-10 in their last 17 road games. They don't do particularly well away from home. The Jets look good, Donnie. Defense looks strong. Darnold looked good. And look, I just kind of like them a little bit more here. I like Miami, but I think they're going to win a lot of games at home and struggle on the road. I feel like at home, Jets -3 looks okay here. Your numbers seem to go the right way. Jets fans coming in and betting their team. You're up to 3. I think the Jets are a pretty solid bet today, but it is the Jets at the end of the day.
You know, as we talked about Fitzpatrick earlier, Jeff, every time they cut away and show a close-up of the Jets quarterback, obviously Darnold with his helmet on, you see the 14, it always makes me think Fitzpatrick for some reason, but obviously a much better, talented football player that should be able to play well. But again, Jeff, here we go with the rookie. Looked real good last week, was comfortable last week outside of throwing that terrible interception. They pretty much controlled the game for the 4 quarters. He didn't have to struggle in the second half. He didn't have to make monster throw after monster throw in pressure situations. I think it'll change up a little bit. Boy, if you're betting the Dolphins, it would be nice to have Devontae Parker lined up with Kenny Stills. I still think the Dolphins can move the football. It's a division game. It's low scoring. You know what, Jeff, in this game, until I see one more week out of Darnold to see if he might be the truth out there, can handle it, I'm always going to lean against betting against a young quarterback. I'll lean on the Dolphins here because if you're looking out there, what are you getting? About 3 points right now. So I'll lean on the 3 with the Miami Dolphins here. Not a popular move since Darnold is everybody's hero, but I'm going to use a little contrarian value week 2 and say, maybe he's not as good as the Jets, maybe not as good as they looked last week, and I'll lean on the division foe that knows him pretty well. Give me the 3 points here.
You're not going to get 5 turnovers this week, probably, the Jets. One more 1 o'clock game, Browns Saints. Saints 10, total 50.5, down to 9.5. Sorry, 9.5, 50.5. Donnie, the Browns, a lot going on right now. Listen, it was time to move on from Josh Gordon. Good for the Browns. I know, Donnie, you don't like this organization. I don't either. But it was time to move on. I mean, you can only give a guy so many chances. At the end of the day, you got to move on from something. Listen, I might want to stay with that girl, but we're toxic. It just has to end. That's how Josh Gordon is right now. He needs to get help. Might not be an NFL player to me. He needs to focus on himself. Donnie, what do you like here? I mean, Saints obviously coming off a loss, an embarrassing loss, give up a lot of points. Mm-hmm. This looks like another high-scoring game to me, frankly. But what do you think here?
I mean, yeah. So, Jeff, how many times are you going to talk about it? Drew Brees in the dome. It almost doesn't matter what the opposite side of the team is because then it doesn't matter what the actual score is. Drew Brees wants his numbers, and he's going to push the pocket and the tempo, even into the 4th quarter, Jeff, when they have a 2 or 3 touchdown lead at that point. The one interesting caveat here is, can Tyrod Taylor shoot it out? I don't think he can here, but you're right about the Browns overall as an organization. If you saw my tweet storm over the summer, if the Browns cared about Josh Gordon, they would have IR'd him this year and paid him his full salary until he got correct. All this hodgepodge nonsense that we care about Josh Gordon, but yet you're always probably calling him like that girlfriend or that guy that won't stop calling you all throughout the time. Hey, Josh, can you show up Monday? Hey, Josh, how about Tuesday, man? Wednesday, think you could be here? Thursday, can you make it? You should have IR'd him and got his mind right and maybe even never let him play football again and still paid him for 5 years to show you how much you cared about Josh Gordon. But you were only trying to trick him to get back into the field, and you knew it wasn't going to take place.
Yeah, but Donnie, I don't know if they tricked him. I think eventually you give a guy a chance. He says to you, he's going to promise you the world. It's like a drug addict. I'm going to get help. I promise. I'm going to go out and get it. I just help me here. And eventually let you down time and time again. I'm not saying Josh Gordon a drug addict. I'm not saying he's a drunk. I'm not saying anything like that. But eventually, Donnie, you can only put up with employee stuff for so long. You try to give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm sure they do care about Josh Gordon, but eventually it's a business. He hasn't played. He hasn't held up his end of the bargain. It's time to move on.
I agree. No, I agree with moving on, but the double speak out of the Cleveland Browns when you watch the Hard Knocks series was, boy, it's so nice. We'll give him all the time he needs. And then he comes in a little bit late and you say you're going to – and then here's another thing. They said they would cut him 50 times before over the last 5 years. But now, we're going to release him Monday. And then they go back into their shell and go, well, maybe we'll trade him. Enough with the Cleveland Browns. I think they get bombed on today. Give me New Orleans. The line isn't even high enough at any number. I think New Orleans bombs them right out of here.
Yeah, this is one of those games where the Cleveland Browns generally have major trouble with. They can't seem to handle conflict. They're a just disgraceful team on the road against the number. I don't know that I buy into this new end team. I think New Orleans is pissed off. They're at home today. I think defensively they've probably got shredded in practice this week. You'd probably think there's a better effort this week. I think it's like a 38 20 type of game. I think they win fairly easily here. But we'll see. This is a big game for Cleveland. Donnie, Hugh Jackson, can he really prepare for his team for a game like this? I mean, also
he probably even had Josh Gordon written in for like 50 to 60 snaps this week, and they cut him on Saturday. So he's probably sitting back going, well, who are we going to put in now? Oh, Rashad Higgins. Yeah, congratulations, you're in.
Now, obviously, Donnie, we have a halftime show at the half of all the 1 o'clock games where we kind of delve into some second half bets, find a live wager or something, and get into some of the 4 o'clock games. We'll try to get through as many as we can here. We got about 10 minutes till kick. We'll start out Arizona and the Rams. A game where, Donnie, I want to just say this. This whole this is too many points in the NFL might be true, but the Cardinals are a team that can't seem to move the ball. I mean, when do you go to Rosen? When do you keep staying with Bradford? This is a team last week that had, barely 200 yards of total offense. I mean, they turned the ball over a few times. The LA Rams look like a train going down the tracks at high speeds. Is this too many points? I mean, the Rams had no trouble last year against the Cardinals. I mean, 32-16 and 33-0. Do we see a trifecta here again?
Yeah, I didn't like what I saw out of Bradford. That was the worst quarterback performance. I mean, I didn't think Tyrod Taylor was anything exceptional on Sunday versus the Pittsburgh Steelers, but the worst quarterback play I saw all weekend last week with watching the games all the way through, by far, it was Sam Bradford. He's scared. Look, when you have a quarterback that's shell-shocked and scared in the pocket, that's not going to be a good recipe. When you have a team that can hum on offense and hang 30 to 40 points on you, like I believe the Los Angeles Rams can do to the Arizona Cardinals here, that's a bad setup. But getting back to your point, Jeff, on Josh Rosen, when do you make the move? I think they're actually making a really good institutional move by putting Sam Bradford out here saying, I don't care if you're a crash test dummy and they break you in half in this football game. We're not putting Josh Rosen on the road in his first career start against this Los Angeles Rams team where he's going to have to keep up and get pounded and hounded by Aaron Donald all game. I think it's a good move. Start in week 3, but let Sam Bradford go out as a crash test dummy this weekend. And again, maybe we're overreacting. Maybe Arizona isn't as bad and the Washington Redskins are the end-all be-all. But in this football game, it's high. I would never bet this game. But if you said, Don, you got to put some money on the game, it's Rams for me all day long because my quarterback is scared on one side and the other side, they're a fine-tuned machine.
Yeah, another miss as well. Andre Smith, your right tackle, out of this game. So, I mean, that's a loss as well. Listen, I'll be honest. I think the Rams roll. I think the Cardinals are bad right now. I would take a shot with Rosen.
35-20, 35-17. Who says no, right? Who says no?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they're shut out. I think they're that bad on defense or on offense. But, with David Johnson, you would expect at least something. Keep it moving here. Game that the game that I don't have a ton on. Detroit and the Niners. Niners 6, total 48. Tough spot for the Lions. A disgusting attempt at playing football on Monday night. You got to go across the country and play a upstart San Francisco team who doesn't have the greatest weapons in the world, but they have a good play caller. They have a good quarterback. They have a solid group on offense. You got to expect Detroit, Donnie. I think one thing we can agree on, they might be as bad as they looked. This is a bad defense who's been devoid of a leader for a long time. No Ziggy Ansah today, or no Ezekiel Ansah today. You have Darius Slay, who was hobbled in the last game. It's a tough ask to go out to San Francisco and beat Jimmy G, who, look, we're going to put points up. I mean, that they're going to put up 25, 30 points. That's what they normally do. Defensively, I think they're pretty strong as well. Obviously, you've got like Richard Sherman, who is going to be better than any corner you have. LeGarrette Blount will play today, Donnie, but the run game has been non-existent for many years for the Detroit Lions. Barry Sanders ain't walking through that door anytime soon. This looks like a nice San Francisco bounce back today.
Yeah, I think it's a good spot. I think I could see a touchdown win by the San Francisco 49ers because sometimes when you're trying to look at betting spots, which a lot of the case is exactly what the NFL is, let's take a look, Jeff. Turmoil in the locker room, awful head coaching debut where you got blown out when you were 7-point favorites, right? Now let's couple it in as a short work week, right? And you are a dome team, and you're not going down to Chicago to play, right? Like, hey, let's just jump on a bus and play in Pittsburgh or whatever it is. You're flying out to the West Coast, so you're already shorthanded. And again, your quarterback is hobbled as you go out there. It can't be anything like, unless you're just a contrarian saying everything Murphy's Law went wrong for Detroit, they'll get some breaks and they'll end up and they might even win this football game. Me as a gambler, I try to look at some things that you can exploit. If your quarterback is shell-shocked last week and already on a bum knee, you're going to go in and play a San Francisco team that did play pretty well down the stretch at home this week. And contrary to belief, actually played pretty well in Minnesota for a few key plays here and there. They might have actually been a little bit closer to cover that football game or even win that game. I'm getting the better football team under a touchdown at home in a team that has a lot of turmoil around it. I'm not betting in the turmoil and say they're going to right the ship. They had a heart-to-heart out here. Usually it gets a lot worse before it gets better, especially what you saw from Detroit. Don't love the game, but Niners for me here, Jeff.
I think a lot of people will be turned off because Goodwin's out. At the end of the day, though, they still have Garcon. They have some rugged young receivers. Trent Taylor, Dante Pettis. I like Kittle, tight end over the middle. He has more weapons than people think. You breed out of the backfield. You have some players here, some young players, but some players that are looking to make their mark today. I like the Niners here. Donnie, let's go through two more. Let's try to bang out two more in 5 minutes. Patriots 1.5 at Jacksonville, 44 on a total. Look, I've talked all week. Without Leonard Fournette, I have no interest in the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think the Patriots at this number, I'm always interested. It's for square. I get it. But I just don't think the Jags are very good on offense without Fournette. Yeldon's a nice player, but he's definitely not Fournette. I don't want Blake Bortles having to do too much. To me, I like the Patriots, but it's a square play. Donnie, I know you're very high on the under in this game.
Yeah, I like the under in this game because, again, I talked about it all week. And look, games aren't, as we know, Jeff, games are not supposed to go under except for fluke circumstances. I mean, there's college games, NFL games where they go up and down the field, but fumble on the goal line, throw a pick in the end zone, or miss 2 field goals and you're under a shot when it should have went over easily. I'm betting into a Tom Brady game, Jeff, where the under is going to be, 44, 45. Sitting at 44 right now is 45 that I loved it early in the week. But, again, I'm not going to quarrel over 1 point. I still like the under 44 because I see more first downs than touchdowns in this game, Jeff. But if you are a backer for New England, even though they don't particularly play very well when they head to the state of Florida, won by 5 last year versus a hapless Tampa Bay team, 1-4 in the last 5 trips down to play Miami. Now you're going to go down to Jacksonville and play one of the best defenses, if not the best defense in the NFL. So I see more of a slow down pace, especially from Jacksonville's side. But if you're betting the New England Patriots here, it's nice to see it go from a pick 'em to about -1, -1.5. So some money coming back in here on the Patriots. And it's hard. I know as a gambler out there, it's week 2. You say, wait a second. Tom Brady just has to win by a field goal. Where do I sign up? I can't fault you for that.
Last one, 4 o'clock, Oakland, Denver. Little AFC West action. Listen, Donnie, I think you make the case the Oakland Raiders are the worst team in the league. After last week, I know
Arizona's bad.
I don't know. I mean, Oakland
Bills are bad.
Oakland, I can't seem to think that. I hate this team. But are they a team that's just going to fold up and go away? I mean, they did play okay in week 1. At least in the first half. Denver laying a bit of a bigger number here. Generally, I like them at like that 3 point, 2.5, 3. Now you're laying 6.5. You need to win my full touchdown here. Is Case Keenum a guy, Donnie, that you trust? I mean, he was very good last week, but they still had trouble at times. I like this defense. I think they make it difficult on Derek Carr. I'd be more inclined to go maybe under for some reason, but it's a tough game. It's a pass for me. What do you think, Donnie? Raider, Bronco?
Yeah, if you're giving me a play in this game, I'm taking the Raiders all day long. Give me the 6.5. I don't think they're as bad as they showed. They had the lead at the half versus the Los Angeles Rams, and that Los Angeles Rams with lights out secondary forced Derek Carr to make some pretty stupid throws and capitalize on it. If he doesn't throw one of those 3 interceptions, they probably cover that football game. So I think you're getting an overreaction. And again, it has come down to Case Keenum. I don't really like him too much as a quarterback. I think he'll still make the mistake. We saw him in Philadelphia, hapless against a really good defense. Obviously not saying that the Raiders are a good defense, but he wasn't altogether that great last week. Made a couple stupid throws out there. He's going to get back in today. You're asking the Denver Broncos, who I liked last week at a nice 2.5, 3 number, but now I don't like them so much at a 6.5. It's an inter-division game. I think it's going to be close. Give me the Raiders getting the 6.5 in this game.
Last week, Donnie and I did well on our picks on this show. Donnie getting ready and locked and loaded to bet on week 3 NFL. That's when he gets started. We'll see one more week here, and then Donnie will get going. Donnie, what do you like? Play it, like a show play of the day or something. We'll be back at halftime, so make sure all of you join us. For me, I'm gonna go Buffalo Bills. I already talked about that one before on the show on the roundtable. I also go with the Houston Texans. What do you like, Donnie?
So you'll go 7. I'll give you the 7, even though Chris just went to -7, -115. That prevailing line for most is 7.5. So we'll give you that one on that one. I like to play for Houston. I think they're 2 good ones there. I'm going to go with the Atlanta Falcons. I talked about them all week long, 5.5, 6, whatever it is, nominal. It's changed. Right now, we'll go with 5.5 on the board. As I told you, I like the Minnesota Vikings regardless of Aaron Rodgers. I wanted them to play, so we'll take that now. Intertops, we'll go with -2 in that football game with the Vikings. And then I'll come back at 425, and I talked about it all week. Look, again, hard to bet unders in the NFL. I'm going to take the under in that Jags game. So I'll go with 3 plays today. Those will be my 3 here. We'll go under. And I'll even take the prevailing line today, not the 45. We'll go 44 as the under.
Great stuff. Everyone enjoy the 1 o'clock games. We'll be back at halftime. I'm going to go watch Eagles, Bucks. Donnie will be doing the same. Join us at halftime. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.